Welcome to the Purple Party known as Purple Nerd Channel, home for all those who geek out on all things Prince related. Batman was released nationwide on June 23, 1989, making over $400 million at the box office, off a budget of $48 million. The film was directed by Tim Burton and stars Michael Keaton as Batman, Jack Nicholson as the Joker, and Kim Basinger as Vicky Vale. The film is scored by Danny Elfman and features original songs by Prince. Prince's album Batman was released 3 days before the film's nationwide release on June 20th, 1989, and was very successful, peaking at number 1 on Billboard's Top 200. I just did a video for Prince's album Batman, and I will have a link to that video at the end of this video. I grew up with this film and I have seen it several times, probably more than I would like to admit. But this is the first time I viewed the film in 4K. And to be fair and consistent with this video, I also took off my nostalgia glasses. But before I give my review of the film, I would like to go ahead and talk about the most interesting part of this film, and that is the backstory of how it got made, as this film was stuck in film purgatory for 10 years. Starting back in October of 1979, when producers Benjamin Melknecker and Michael Uslan bought the film rights from DC Comics for Batman. Producers Jon Peters and Peter Guber joined a month later. All 4 producers were focused from day one to bring Batman back to the dark and gritty detective stories that first started in the original comic run. They spent the first year being told no by every film studio, as the image of Adam West's slapstick Batman and Batman hanging out with Scooby-Doo was apparently cemented in everyone's mind as being the image of Batman. Thankfully, the success of 1978's Superman, which grossed over $300 million at the box office off of a $55 million budget, got some interest from Warner Brothers, who put out Superman, about maybe doing the Batman film. So in 1980, Warner Brothers gave the 4 producers a $15 million budget to start pre-production on their Batman film. In June of 1983, after the project sat for 3 years, they hired Tom Mackweiss to write the script and got a new budget from Warner Brothers for $20 million with an estimated release date of sometime in the middle of 1985. The original script presented a challenge, as there were a multitude of main characters, including Batman, Robin, the Joker, the Penguin, Silver St. Cloud, Alfred, and Commissioner Gordon, all having large parts, and each character having a complex backstory being presented. Big-name directors Wes Craven and Joe Dante were offered the position of director, but both of them passed on the script. Thanks to the success of Pee-wee's Big Adventure, in 1986, after the project sat for another 3 years, Tim Burton was offered the job as director. But like the previous 2 directors that were offered the job, he really didn't care for the script either, but he was willing to take the job if he could rewrite the story. But because he was already involved in another movie being filmed, he needed 2 years to work on it. So in 1988, using the influences of the graphic novels The Dark Knight Returns and The Killing Joke, Tim Burton used these properties as inspiration when he explained his story to screenwriter Sam Hamm. Sam Hamm decided to go with an original story instead of using the source material that was supplied to him by Tim Burton. This project was starting to lose steam again when Tim Burton's second film Beetlejuice was released and was a smash hit. This finally got the film out of its never-ending stage of pre-production and into actual filming. Everyone from Mel Gibson to Bill Murray to Tom Selleck was considered for Batman, with Warner Brothers pushing for Pierce Brosnan. Tim Burton wanted a then unknown actor by the name of William Dafoe for the role of Batman, when producer Jon Peters suggested Michael Keaton, who just happened to star as Beetlejuice in Tim Burton's latest film. So Burton was obviously very familiar with Michael Keaton's work, but it wasn't until after the producer's suggestion to watch Keaton's performance in the film Clean and Sober that Tim Burton was sold on Michael Keaton as Batman. So when it was announced that Tim Burton would direct the film and Michael Keaton would star as Batman, the world lost its mind, with Warner Brothers being flooded with letters of angry protest. Could you imagine what it'd be like if social media was around during this time? with Keaton being famous for his comedic roles like Mr. Mom and Beetlejuice, and Tim Burton being known for his whimsical, crazy, weird style. The assumption by the masses was that we were going to get the same campy and goofy 1960s Batman all over again, and not the return of the comic book accurate Batman created by Bob Kane that we were promised. When it came to the casting of the Joker, it was a little bit more simple. I mean, sure, the studio was looking at David Bowie and Tim Curry and even Robin Williams, but the producers had selected Jack Nicholson from the very beginning, dating back as far as 1986 when they first approached him about taking the role. And let me tell you, these producers were willing to do whatever Jack Nicholson wanted in order to get him to play this part. And you might ask yourself, what exactly was it that he had to have and what special privileges did he request? Well, he first was nice enough to, instead of taking his normal standard $10 million per film cut, he decided to give them a little more budget-friendly number of $6 million for the film, but with special privileges, such as getting time off to go to Lakers home games and having his hours on the set limited. Oh, and the big one, he requested a cut of the film's gross and a particular percentage of all the merchandising, like the toys and t-shirts. In the end, Jack Nicholson walked away with $90 million by the end of the following year. It wasn't too long into filming when the production budget of $30 million was surpassed by another $18 million. So several characters and scenes had to be cut and deleted from the original script, which required several rewrites during the filming of this movie. And of course, this happened during the writer's strike of 1988. So Warren Scarron, Jonathan Gems, and Charles McCone handled the rewrites on the fly during filming. The funny part about that, though, is with 4 writers, 5 if you count Tim Burton's original story, that no one has ever taken blame for writing in the twist that the Joker was the one that actually killed Batman's parents in the film, which is not canon to the Batman lore of the comics whatsoever, and angered hardcore Batman comic fans worldwide. This is also why the film seems to continuously drag on in the final act, as if they had cut so much out of the script that they actually didn't have enough material to actually film. Well, that is because they didn't. As I mentioned earlier in the video, the film was a huge success, doing almost $1 billion with ticket sales, video rentals, and merchandise, which the merchandise covered every category from cereal to toys, apparel, and even video games. The success of this film led to every comic book property that you can think of being greenlit by pretty much every major studio, as this film proved that comic book movies didn't have to be aimed at kids. Which this film caught some heat from parents, as they found it to be too violent and too dark, and in a lot of cases just too scary for their kids. But if you would have watched the trailer and noticed that the film was also rated PG-13, then you would have known it wasn't a good idea to bring your 5-year-old to this film. As I mentioned before, I watched this film for the first time in 4K, and it really shows off its flaws. And I'm not talking about the numerous plot holes, I'm talking about the special effects, because they do not hold up at all. I mean, the hand-drawn animation really sticks out really bad and does not blend into the rest of the film whatsoever. And you can see clear as day that 80% of the sets are actually miniatures, as the Hot Wheel cars on the streets are very noticeable. And you can tell the vast majority of the backgrounds are actually just matte paintings, because once again, they don't blend into the actual sets very well at all. And I have to say, still, Michael Keaton does a great performance as Batman and Bruce Wayne, but physically, he was not the dude for this role. His giant cape and giant cowl really shows off how tiny he really is. And you can tell that 75% of the action scenes were filmed with a stuntman, as you get to watch his arms grow bigger and little between each scene, as if he can get buff and less buff magically. In the end though, I still love this film. And no, it's not a cinematic masterpiece, but you know what? It is super entertaining. Thank you for joining me on this episode. Please like and share this video, and please subscribe to the channel And if you got a moment, go ahead and check out my Patreon page. I will have a link to that in the description below. And you know what? Go ahead and check out my Instagram account as well. I'll have a link for that down in the description below as well. I do a lot of my own memes, and they're all Prince-based memes, so you'll probably enjoy them. But I will see you on the next episode where I go ahead and drop my Purple Rain video for the 40th anniversary of Purple Rain. And until that next episode, I wish you heaven.